Thanks for stopping by to check out this episode of Vintage Audio Review. In this episode, I am going to talk about this JBL Paragon speaker system. JBL made the D44000 Paragon loudspeaker between 1957 to 1983. They ran about $1,830 in 1957, which would be about $20,000 today. As they were a very, very pricey speaker, only 1,000 Paragon speakers were ever built. And I had the opportunity to test and listen to this particular one, which belongs to my good buddy Richard, whom you met towards the end of episode number 53 on the JBL 4350 speakers. He has a thing for JBL speakers. Anyway, they are as nice to listen to as they are to look at, and while the measurements were done under not ideal conditions with all the stuff in the room, and it's a rather large room, it's open on one side. Anyway, you can kind of get a feel to how efficient these speakers are. When I did the frequency response measurement, I did it at a much lower voltage than what I usually do. Normally I will adjust the output of the amplifier so that it is putting out 1 watt into 8 ohms or 2.83 volts. As it turns out, I forgot my multimeter for this test, and when I went back and measured what I was actually putting out under those conditions, it was about 1 volt. So the SPLs would have been much higher had this been tested at the full 2.83 volts that I typically test at. That being said, I wanted to just talk a little bit about listening to them. On the back of each speaker are controls for high frequency gain as well as mid-range gain for each channel. I left those where they were set, and both channels were set at the same points. As far as the sound of the Paragon, it is very smooth sounding. It's not a harsh horn sounding speaker. It has a great tone. I thought there were plenty of highs, and vocals were outstanding. And the sound stage that it provides is surprisingly very good. The only negative, other than the speaker terminals in the back where you connect the speakers, they have those JBL connectors where you push down and then push the wire in. They're kind of a pain, but other than that, the only negative would be the low frequency bass below, say, 70 hertz, which you will see in the frequency response plot coming up in just a little bit. Oh boy. But other than the low frequency bass not really being there, that is a great speaker. If they were mine, I would have a subwoofer for them, but for Richard, for the kind of listening he does, it's great. They are just a huge, beautiful looking speaker, and it is a great piece of mid-century modern furniture as well. So right now, I'm going to show a little video that I shot while I was at Richard's, and then there will be some plots showing the frequency response of the Paragon as well as the impedance that I measured of the Paragon. I hope you enjoyed it. is the frequency response plot of the Paragon loudspeaker from 20 Hertz to 20 kilohertz. This was made using only 100 milliwatts applied to either speaker or both speakers, as the case may have been. I normally use 1 watt, but I didn't have my multimeter as I explained in the video, and when I checked everything out when I got home, I found out I was actually only using 100 milliwatts. So it's pretty impressive that we're hitting over 90 dB SPLs with only 100 milliwatts. As far as my measurement system, let me bring that up. The microphone is placed 1 meter away, and I do point it at the speaker rather than vertically. It's also halfway between the distance from, say, from here, where the legs would be, up to the top of the speaker here. It is sighted right, bore sight of the speaker, and I use this little level system here, this laser level, to make sure that the microphone is level when it's pointed bore sight. So looking at the response, our left speaker, which is the one highlighted in yellow, has a suck out at about 48 Hertz, I would say. The right side does not, and that's related to just room anomalies. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a plot with both of them. So right now, the highlighted trace is the plot showing the combined measurement with both the left and the right channels active and 100 milliwatts being applied to both of them. You can see that the suck out at 48 Hertz has more or less vanished. It's up to 50 Hertz. Overall, it has a decent response when you're looking at both of them. In the video, I said that the bass seemed to be dropping down at 70 Hertz, but I would say the loss of bass probably happens more in, I don't know, 60 Hertz, maybe 55 Hertz area. You start seeing a big drop off in bass. So 70 Hertz would be right here. The bass still looks good. By 60 Hertz, we've dropped down, and by 50 Hertz, it's dropped down quite a bit. So that's really not unusual for speakers not to have good frequency response below 50 Hertz, but a speaker this big, it's a little bit surprising, at least to me. So that was my comment, that if it were mine, I probably would be adding a subwoofer or two. So this plot shows the impedance of the Paragon, and it's showing both the left and right channels, and they track pretty good. It's basically not less than about, what's that, 7 ohms maybe, and it goes as high as 20 ohms, but right at 1 kilohertz, it's probably in the 13 ohm area. I think it's listed as a 16 ohm speaker, but I would say, if you average these out, it's probably averaging in the 12 ohm range. And this just shows the phase of the Paragon speaker. The two channels overlap each other pretty much the same, and it kind of just shows that the phase doesn't have any big swings in it, which is kind of nice. So it's kind of just not looking too bad. At the low end of the band, you see more change in the phase, but it's just there for kind of information purposes. I hope you enjoyed this, and once again, I would like to hear any comments that you have. If you like the video, click the like button, and if you have not subscribed, that would be very nice. And until next time, have a great day or night.